Welcome to Aging Untold. No matter how old you are, everyone deserves to be safe. Unfortunately, there's a growing concern for older adults. 1 in every 10 Americans 60 and older experience abuse at home. However, some studies show those numbers have increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, Sam has a gerontologist talk about the types of abuse that you've seen.
Well, obviously, there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's financial abuse, there's neglect, which is a form of abuse, and then there's sexual abuse. And we don't talk about that one nearly enough because we can't even fathom that somebody in their 80s could be sexually abused.
Yeah, I think when we think about sexual abuse, when people think about that, they're thinking about children.
Sure.
They totally forget about the elderly.
Right. Right. So it does happen. It's not something that's talked about a lot. It's something that they don't even always even recognize, but in like a memory unit where consent can't happen. There's some taking advantage of that can go on, sometimes even by the workers, and we know that that's unfortunately happening.
Uh, I think for me, I think about sexual abuse and I think, what would I do if I was convinced that my mother was sexually abused? Like, who do you call? What do you?
Well, first off, determine what is it? Is it really sexual abuse, or is your parent having a consensual act? And that's something that's often hard as an adult child to realize,
Or nightmares. They're dementia driven.
or just reliving your own past.
Hmm.
A lot of our people have been molested in their youth, and so they're now reliving that, and they're in a cognitive decline. But once you realize that any type of abuse is happening, then you have to alert the authorities. You have to find the proper people to talk to, and you have to intervene. You need to be that safe person if it's your loved one and you're not the abuser, because most of our abuse unfortunately happens by our family.
In private homes. And sometimes reporting it to the authorities doesn't take care of the situation because seniors have a tendency sometimes to go along with the abuser. So, why is that?
Well, think about it. They're older and they're dependent on the caregiver, whoever that caregiver is. And so if I report them, who's going to take care of me? I think it's a practical issue. So if you, like, say you're a caregiver, a family member, and you're responsible for taking care of someone, and you think that person is having a problem, well, one, you're going to have to figure out what your plan B is if you're going to report the person, because they're going to have to know that there's going to be a safe place for them to land with another caregiver that they're going to like as much if you're taking away that primary person.
It's like the abused spouse. How many times does an abused spouse take a beating before they're ready to leave? So, and then, financial abuse, you see it oftentimes in your field, and I know you've seen it. And banks are trying to stay alert to it.
They're very good at it.
And they are. They're actually the best at intervening on the financial abuse. But it happens all the time, and it happens by family members. And then who wants to turn their own kid in? Who wants to see their own kid
Right.
be in trouble?
A lot of this comes down to inheritance and patience and having control of the older adult, isolating the older adult. And I say it often that the American dream sometimes becomes the American nightmare. The best thing we can do is plan for our future self so we don't end up vulnerable and being taken advantage by someone else, and where it's kept hush hush and quiet and we're really trapped.
For me, if I know that there's a caregiver that's participating in any type of abuse, I'm reporting them to the state
Right. And
and making sure that they're not in that field.
Adult Protective Services, I think that's nationally, Adult Protective Services, call 1-800-ELDER ABUSE or something like that. Also, if they have a license, like a license for a community, a facility,
Sure.
a physician, somebody that you can report to the licensing board.
It's easy to recognize physical abuse. We all are aware of that. But what about emotional abuse? And so those can be subtle, subtle signs and all that. So that's something you have to really look for.
Emotional manipulation. And how would you look for it, let's say, in a doctor's office?
Well, you just kind of look at the interaction between the caregiver and the patient. I mean, if the patient is kind of dismissive or alienated to theirself and uh, don't really want to make eye contact, or if it's someone I've been knowing for a while and I notice a change in their behavior, then that's a clue.
Yeah, there's something going
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
I'm all for if you've got a family member and you're bringing in any kind of a caregiver into the home or if they're in a community, bring in cameras, record it. Make sure that whatever's going on in there, you're watching and you're seeing, and check your family members' bank accounts. You know, if make sure that that's not being scammed out of them because there's a lot of scam artists. Make sure that you don't have a caregiver that's taking advantage or somebody that's doing anything inappropriate.
That's a good tip because it's really a crime of opportunity. It can start off being very well-meaning, and then over time, they start taking a little more money, isolating a little bit more, and it can go bad from there. Dr. Ray, I liked what you said that if you were to know that patient and you noticed a change, and I think that's the thing is build a team around you, people that really know you, so that you're more protected. You have advocates set up around you.